So you want to roll a wizard. Well, here's what you need to know. This is normally the part where I give a brief description of the class thematically, but let's be honest. Y'all already know what the fuck a wizard is. They study tomes, they ponder orbs, they're always old men who spent their lives unlocking the secrets of the arcane even when the campaign starts at level 1. Boy, are they gonna feel stupid when one of their party members multiclasses and learns in a week what took them decades. Wizards are the only class to gain their magic through study. Okay, yeah, but that's like art school, not real school. By researching the fundamental forces of the universe themselves and recording their findings in a spellbook, wizards are free to bend said forces to their will without having to ask some cosmic sugar daddy if it's okay. But how are wizards different in terms of gameplay? That's a little tougher to explain. There are two types of spellcasters in Pathfinder 2e. Those that rely on some sort of gimmick, for whom spells are more of an afterthought, and those who are basically just walking sacks of spell slots. The wizard sits firmly in the latter camp, with every feat and feature aimed at either getting you more spell slots or maximizing the effectiveness of the ones you spend. Exhibit A, your arcane bond. Great for those days when you run into two perfectly spaced clusters of bandits, but only prepared one fireball. Feats will give you more bang for your buck out of this feature. A recurring theme for the wizard because, as previously stated, your spells are your class. That being the case, why not expand your spells per day with free scrolls, focus spells with extra steps, or bonus high rank spell slots? Or maybe you'd like to alleviate some of that spell preparation business that players love so much. For you, there are feats to expand your options for each slot, or mush spells together to get 2 spells for the price of 1. Such a shame most of these feats are so high level. I mean, what else are we supposed to spend our class feats on? Spell-shaped feats?
Yes.
Turns out the class that had to figure out all the magic formulas itself picked up a few extra tricks along the way. Some make your magic hit harder, others make magic harder to hit you. Some are incredibly useful for those who like all the mindfuckery of a bard without the literal fuckery. At the end of the day, however, 2 things define your wizard: where you went to school and what you majored in. That's right, wizards get 2 subclasses. Well, 1.5 really. Your arcane school is just a handful of extra spells based around a theme. Other than Wizard Trade School, which I only mention because the visual of a blue-collar wizard is funny to me, only one warrants any further analysis. The School of Unified Magical Theory trades extra slots for extra times you can drain your bonded item. Big deal. I drain my bonded item multiple times a day too, but you don't see me making a whole subclass about it. Your arcane thesis is the real difference maker for wizards. Your research has culminated into a discovery that lets you rewrite the book on spellcasting. Proving the old adage of first is the worst is experimental spell shaping. As you may recall, wizards have some unique and decently powerful spell shape options. As you may also recall, wizards already have 10 class feats and not much else to spend them on. You're trying to sell water to a drowning man. Improved familiar attunement is slightly better, if only because familiars can fetch you beers from the fridge and give you extra spell slots. Other than that, you're just a worse witch with 1 less familiar ability and no option to pick your spell list. You can drain your familiar instead of a bonded item, but unless you make your familiar a teacup pig so you can call it cranking your hog, I see no functional benefit. Spell blending is where things start to get interesting. Big spells are fun, and picking which spells to heighten to your second highest available rank feels like Sophie's Choice but worse. Now, you can turn all those teeny tiny slots you weren't planning on using anyway into bigger spells and bigger numbers that make your monkey brain light up more. Plus, 1 first-ranked slot for 2 auto-heightened cantrips? They were smart to cap this at 1 a day. At first, I didn't think much of spell substitution. I mean, the troll isn't likely to give me 10 minutes to prep a fire spell. Then I remembered some people like the non-combat parts of RPGs, and that magic is pretty useful for those too. In that case, this basically removes the biggest restriction for prepared spellcasting and is therefore sleeper OP. Not even sleeper. Think about how much money you'd save on scrolls and wands for those situational spells you might need but don't want to waste a slot on preparing every day. I mean, you're a caster, so you're probably not going to use money for that much anyway. Except maybe a staff, but there's a better option if that's your thing. Staffs get a number of charges per day that you can spend to cast whatever spells the staff knows. If only all spellcasting in Pathfinder worked like this, but I digress. Staff Nexus lets you start the game with an impotent, barely functional staff. Hey, fuck you! You can upgrade this into a proper staff that retains its original benefits, and you can feed it more spell slots per day as you level up. It's an extra cantrip per day, it's a bit more flexibility with spell prep, it's serviceable. As you can see, wizards have layers of depth and complexity that make them difficult to pick up but rewarding to master. While still effective in less experienced hands, I wouldn't recommend this class as your first ever spellcaster, much less your first ever Pathfinder character. However, if you're willing to put in the effort to learn the ins and outs of the class, much like wizards themselves put in the effort to learn the ins and outs of magic, you will have the tools to bend the game to your whims. Then again, pizza and a handy could accomplish the same thing, but that might just be when I GM.